So here's a story that puts it all into perspective. Rabbi Lau, Sr., the former chief rabbi of Israel, who has an incredible story. He wrote a book, you should read it, From Out of the Depths or Out of the Depths. He was a little boy in the concentration camp, and he grew up to be the chief rabbi of Israel. It's an amazing story. Years ago, he was visiting with the Rebbe. And of course, they spoke about the problems in Israel, and the rabbi had traveled the world, the problems of Jewish life around the world. It was a long conversation. And at the end, Rabbi Lau said to the Rebbe, "What's going to be? Was wird sein?" And the Rebbe said to him, rather than asking what's going to be, we should ask, what more can we do? Rabbi Lau quotes the Rebbe often in his speeches. This quote, rather than ask what is going to be, we should ask what more we can do. How would you understand the Rebbe's answer? When I heard it, my first thought was, what's wrong with asking what's going to be? Seems like a good question. Look at all the problems. Well, what's going to be? So if the Rebbe says, let's talk about what we can do. Okay. But why did the Rebbe have to say, let's not ask what's going to be? So my first thought was, the question, what's going to be, is too depressing. Let's not go there. Don't ask what's going to be. It don't look good. That doesn't sound like the Lubavitcher Rebbe at all. So my second thought was, the Rebbe is a very practical man. He likes to bring everything down to the world of action. So he was saying, what's going to be, we can't control. What we can control is what we can do to help. So let's talk about the practical rather than the theoretical. Better, but it still doesn't sound like the Rebbe. Here's what sounds like the Rebbe. Let's not ask what's going to be, because we know what's going to be. Mashiach is going to come. The world is going to become perfect. There will be peace on earth. There will be no competition. There will be no animosities. There will be no jealousy. That's what's going to be. What's the question? If so, then we got nothing to worry about. Just sit back and wait. So the Rebbe says, no. The question of what's going to be is not necessary, but there is a question that is necessary. What more can we do to make things better? You would think you don't have to do anything because, Mashiach is coming. He'll fix it. So the Rebbe is telling us, even though Mashiach is coming and everything will become perfect, it is absolutely essential that we do something to make it happen. Why? Because that's our mission. Mashiach will do what Mashiach has to do. And God will do what God has to do. But it's equally important that we do what we were created to do. That sounds like the Rebbe. What's going to be? It's going to be so much better. Things are going to become so much holier, so much more righteous, so much more life-supporting. That's what's going to be. The question is, are you a spectator or are you a participant? Are you part of the problem? Are you part of the solution? Or are you not part of anything? That's why it's important to ask, what can we do? Not because we're worried and pessimistic, but because the ability, the opportunity to do something to make the world perfect, which it inevitably will become, that is a huge privilege, and we don't want to lose the opportunity. That's how we should be thinking today. Nothing evil is happening. Tragedy is happening. The response to tragedy is more life. In fact, the response to a virus has to be more life, because a virus is lifeless. It is so dangerous because it represents the absence of light. It's a darkness that doesn't let you live. Unlike bacteria, just physical fact, bacteria, those are living cells. And that's why there's good bacteria. Too many antibiotics can be dangerous. They kill off the good bacteria. There's no such thing as good virus. Virus is always bad because virus has no life. It represents death because it's essentially dead. It steals life from your lungs. Otherwise, it has no life. So you don't need to kill it. You need to starve it. Just don't give it access. Don't allow it to become your parasite and draw life from you. Deny it your life, and it can't live. So how does a virus get to steal life from the living? The answer is they find the black spot. They find that one area in which you're not completely alive. It zeroes in on that lifelessness, and that's where it attacks. A place where you're vulnerable, a place where you've been hurt before, a place that is not completely enthusiastic about life. That's where it can attach itself. Therefore, if we are completely and thoroughly enthusiastic about life, it can't touch us. It has no access. And that's why negative thinking, discouragement, disheartened, negative, pessimistic feelings, that's playing right into the virus. That's giving it access, wide open door. And that's why it must be avoided. It must be, you cannot afford to think negative or discouraged or panicked. This is really more important than any medicine. Don't give in to a virus by becoming pessimistic. It'll keep you awake. If it keeps you awake, it weakens you. If it weakens you, it has access. Don't let that happen. We know what's going to be. It's going to be very good. And what about the people who have passed away? That's only temporary. You ready for this? There's another misconception that we have to outgrow. The misconception is death is permanent, life is temporary. True? Ask anybody, anywhere in the world. Death is permanent, life is temporary. That is not true. Not true. It's just a bad attitude that has perpetuated itself. Life is forever, death is temporary. Again, going back to the story of creation. How did death get introduced into this world? eating of the tree of knowledge. Before they ate from the tree of knowledge, human beings were immortal, meant to live forever, because life is permanent. Because of the sin of eating from the tree of knowledge, or the descent from the Garden of Eden into this world is a world of mortality. But this is not our first nature. Our first primary nature is that we do not die. So death is the exception, not the rule. This is a hard thing to adjust because we're so thoroughly convinced that death is inevitable and permanent. It's not. Every Jew who did a single mitzvah must be rewarded. But to be rewarded, you have to be a body that is alive with a soul, because that's how you did the mitzvah. You didn't do the mitzvah without the body, and you didn't do the mitzvah without the soul. The only way to do a mitzvah is when there's a soul in the body. So if that person, comprised of soul and body, is going to be rewarded, they have to be rewarded equally. Maybe the body deserves more of a reward. Can't do a mitzvah without a body. You can't give tzedakah without a body. You can't eat matzah without a body. Can't light a Shabbos candle or go to the mikveh without a body. So it's 90% body, 10% soul. And besides, the soul doing a mitzvah, well, what do you expect? But when a body does a mitzvah, the body's going out of its way to do the mitzvah. It would rather just sit like a lump of clay. So how is the body going to get its reward? The soul goes to heaven. In a sense, it gets its reward there. But that's not good enough because it didn't do the mitzvah as a soul. It did the mitzvah as a human being, which means body and soul. So there's no question that the body has to come back. It must. If there's any justice in the world, the body's got to come back. The body will come back. Those bones will rise again. And the soul will return to its body, and together they will receive the reward for the mitzvahs that they did. So death, even the death of the body, is only temporary. The truth is, it's not even death. The body doesn't die. The body was never alive. The body is made out of earth. It's not alive. When God breathes the soul into the soul animates the body and brings it alive. But the life doesn't belong to the body, it belongs to the soul. And that's why when the soul leaves, the body is lifeless. It doesn't have a life of its own. So you can't really say the body died. It didn't die. It was never alive. You can't say the soul died because it doesn't. A soul can't die. Life can't die. So that which is alive can't die, and that which was never alive doesn't need to die. It's just a lump of clay. So death really means, here's the proper definition. What exactly dies? What expires? Your time. The time allotted for the soul and body to be united runs out. So your days have died, not your soul, not your body. When the time comes, The soul will return to its body. The body will recompose just as easily as it decomposes, and it will receive its reward for the mitzvahs that it performed during its lifetime. Lifetime meaning active duty. And every soul in heaven is waiting impatiently to come back to its body, because the real reward will only happen when they're together. So, those people who passed away recently don't even need Kaddish. And those people in heaven who have passed away in previous years, going back even 4,000 years, like to Abraham and Sarah, they're all waiting impatiently to come back into their body. But that's going to happen when the world is welcoming, when the world is ready for this kind of divinity, this degree of godliness. And then the world will be much holier than heaven. So we have this expression, bringing heaven down to earth. I'm not sure it's of Jewish origin, because we don't want to bring heaven down to earth. Heaven and earth were both created for a purpose. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. We don't want earth and we don't want heaven. We want the creator of heaven and earth. We want to be connected to him. We want to be on the same page as him. We want to be partners with him in the creation of heaven and earth. So we're not intimidated by earth. We're not impressed by heaven. We are partners with God to make both of them what they are meant to be. Their potential has not yet been realized. Here's a final thought. It seems pretty clear that whatever is happening today is all a preparation for the coming of Mashiach, for the time when the world will reach its fulfillment and its perfection. If you don't understand it properly, this whole concept sounds like a childish fairy tale. Somebody's going to come, a very special person, and he's going to make everything good. How? Magically. That kind of a fanciful thinking could not have lasted 3,000 years. We've been waiting for Mashiach for 3,000 years. So, the meaning of Mashiach can be understood like this. In this free time that we now have, it's inevitable that people get to know themselves better. When you have no distractions, you end up looking at yourself. So in this lockdown, we find ourselves surrounded by mirrors. You got to see yourself from all sides. So you see the good, you see the bad. You get to know yourself. And you discover that there are things about yourself that you really, really don't like. Pains you. You also discover that there are some things about you that are pretty nice, that you never really gave yourself credit for. Now here's the painful thing. I am smart enough to know what I should be. I'm also motivated enough and moral enough to want all the good things that I could be. So I want to be better than I am. Everybody does. Everybody does. You have to be a total narcissist, absolutely consumed by what you are, to not want to be better. We all want to be better. And we're not confused, and we're not ignorant, and we're not clueless. We know how to be better. Everybody knows. Everybody has something they would love to do, they know they should do, they want to do, and they just don't do it. If I think today, what can I do to improve myself? The answer is going to be the same answer I gave myself 30 years ago. That's a messed up world. When the potential doesn't become actual, something's wrong. It's right there. You want it, you like it, you understand it. Go for it. I know all the excuses. It doesn't make sense. It's not I want to be bad and I want to be good and I can't make up my mind. I don't want to be bad. I do want to be good. And I know what I mean by good. I don't have to ask anybody. I know what I'm missing. And yet, day after day, week after week, month after month, doesn't happen. It's a messed up world. It's an exile world. What does exile mean? Very simply, exile means the Jewish people, the children of Israel, belong in the land of Israel. We know that. Everybody knows that. And yet, we're not in the land of Israel. And even the Jews who are in the land of Israel are being told that they don't belong there. So what should be and what is are not coming together. Jews don't eat pork. That's absolutely true. You know, fact is that Jews do eat pork. Jews don't work on Shabbos. No, that's true. Jews don't work. But you know, there are Jews who work on Shabbos. That's a messed up world. The coming of Mashiach does not involve miracles or supernatural intervention. The coming of Mashiach means what you want to be, what you know you should be, and what you've been planning to be, you will be. Is that a miracle? Is it a miracle for me to be what I would like to be? No, the opposite is the miracle. Not being able to actualize my potential, that's unnatural. When Mashiach comes and the world becomes healthy, nature becomes healthy, naturally, of course I would be what I want to be. What would stop me? So the coming of Mashiach means tomorrow morning, people are going to wake up and ask themselves, what can I do? What is needed from me? You have a very good world right there. That's it. The world is good. If everybody wakes up saying, what can I do? Or I'm going to be what I think I should be. That's it. You have a very good world. What about those people who wake up in the morning and think, who can I hurt today? Who can I cheat today? Who can I rob today? There are such people. There are such organizations, movements, philosophies. They wake up with the intention of doing harm. It's always been, right? It's always been because they were able to hide behind some facade of legitimacy. Every lie has to have a little bit of truth in it for it to fly. If there's no truth in it, it doesn't take off. Nobody buys it, nobody accepts it, it doesn't go anywhere. It's dead in its tracks. What we're going to see in the next couple of weeks, maybe months, the unmasking, the exposure. There is goodness hiding everywhere. It's going to be exposed. And there is evil hiding everywhere, and it's going to be exposed. Now here's the difference. When you expose goodness, the exposure improves the world. It strengthens the goodness. When you expose evil, it destroys the evil. Because once you expose it, it can't hide behind the good. It can't pretend to be good. So we're told, the sages tell us, that pork, pig, is going to become kosher in the world to come. What is it about a pig? There are two signs that make an animal kosher. It has to chew its cud and have split hooves. The pig has split hooves, but it doesn't chew its cud. So unique among cattle and farm animals, when the pig lies down, instead of folding its front legs under its body, it extends his front legs forward to where the hooves are visible. As if to say, I'm kosher. Look at my hooves. I got split hooves. So you can overlook the fact that I don't chew my cud and consider me kosher. That's the nature of the unholiness. It hides behind a sliver of legitimacy. But that can't last. It's got to become kosher. How does it become kosher? If you expose it. The evil part has to go away because it got nothing to stand on. The virus, without a living entity, cannot survive. Separate the virus from its host, and it just dries up and falls away because it has no life of its own. So we're going to see surprisingly evil intentions or thoughts or behavior coming from surprising places. Where we thought there was some goodness, the evil will be exposed. Where we least expect to find goodness, that goodness is going to be exposed. In other words, the world moves towards Mashiach by undoing the confusion that came from eating of the tree. This mixture of good and evil in everything, without that mixture, evil can't live. So watch it happen. The exposure, the revelation, the clarification of good from evil and evil from good. And when that happens, the evil just falls away. You don't have to kill it. And the way that we can contribute is by increasing our enthusiasm for life. Enthusiasm for life means I know what I'm needed for. I know where I can be helpful. I know where I can make a difference and a contribution, and I'm going for it. Will it by itself change the world? No. It's not my job to change the world. It's my job to add a little goodness to the world, and collectively, all of the goodness together will change the world. So never think of going back. No, we don't want to go back. We don't want to drop back into those bad habits. We want to move upwards. We want to move forwards. We want to enter a much better world. And we want to be able to say, I made it better. I wasn't just a spectator. I did a little bit. Because I'm only capable of a little bit. And that's all that is asked of me. So God is telling us, I don't need heroics. I don't need giants of spirit. I don't need another Moses. I don't need another King David. I don't even need another Baal Shem Tov. Now what I need, after they did all their heroic work, now I just need you to do your little share. Your tiny contribution. Can a tiny contribution be really valuable? Don't ask that question today. Can a tiny mitzvah be valuable and effective? Can a microscopic little evil, can a microscopic virus turn the world upside down? If a microscopic evil can be so destructive, a microscopic mitzvah can be much more constructive. Because good is always more powerful than evil. So yes, tiny mitzvahs are very powerful. The atom has more energy and more power than the Grand Canyon. In fact, an atom probably created the Grand Canyon. So, people, we're living in amazing times. Difficult because it's confusing. We have 1 foot in exile and 1 foot in Mashiach. 1 foot is imprisoned in bad habits, and the other foot is already in the new world where everything is wonderful. It's hard to be in 2 worlds. It's very hard. No generation faced this problem before. Even the generation coming out of Egypt. They were coming out of Egypt. They weren't entering a new world. They were just going to a better part of the world. Only now, for the first time in history, there's one generation that is both in exile and out of exile. That's us. We're living through an amazing, amazing time. Look only for the positive. That kills viruses. Be fully enthusiastic about life. Otherwise, you're feeding the virus. I don't want to do that. And don't underestimate the power of a tiny mitzvah. A smile where it's necessary. A kind word. A mitzvah performed at home, not even in shul. You ate matzah at your Seder. Nobody knows. Nobody was there. You were all alone. Just you and God. And you said to God, you want me to eat matzah? I'm eating matzah. Haven't heard from you in 3,000 years, but 3,000 years ago you asked me to eat matzah. I said I would, so I'm eating matzah. How could God be angry with that? How could he not be impressed and grateful and loving. What's not to love? Think positive. Things are going good. Everything's moving towards good, better. We're not going to recognize the world in a few months. This is for real. This is not a joke. This is not a test. This is for real. So do your part without heroics. Nobody needs to know. Nobody needs to help you. Nobody needs to inspire you. You got it all. Go for it.